CCTV, and all IT-related priorities. This is quite a priority for us, and we will be focusing our funding through supporting this. Gender-based violence focus with additional emphasis on FCS units in provinces. We will also sustain forensic services baseline, but with the allocation previously increased and enhancement of technology to allow the environment to execute their duties as required. We are also aware that we have to put money aside to ensure that all the recommendations that will come from the ad hoc committee as well as the Madlanga Commission are implemented, and where there are specific reforms that need to be in place, those reforms must be funded in this regard. So this is also our focus area. We are also going to be focusing our spending on the support of effective border security and interventions, as well as related innovation. Capacitation of frontline services remains a priority, Chair, with an emphasis placed on maximum allocation of financial resources to provinces, professionalizing the police service through skills development, as well as efforts to eliminate internal fraud and corruption. So we will be focusing on strengthening our integrity units, our internal audit units, so that there is capacity to tackle internal fraud and corruption issues that are currently troubling us. We want to also focus, Chair, on the issues of increased feeling of safety by communities through addressing priority crimes such as murders, organized crime, the issues of control of firearms, gender-based violence. So this is for members for effective policing. We will ensure that we procure essential items such as bulletproofs, uniform, and all those critical items that are required for our members to execute their duties. Chair, on Part B, I will take the committee through the SAPS annual performance plan, and we will demonstrate the link to the SONA priorities as well as the ministerial priorities and government priorities that have been given to the South African Police Service as well as the Justice Cluster as a whole. Starting with the 2026 SONA priorities for policing, Chair, we just want to remind ourselves that the President provided a comprehensive roadmap of crime-related challenges and planned responses in the 2026 State of the Nation Address, which provides direction for key departments within the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Cluster, the criminal justice system, including the South African Police Service. A total of 8 crime-related key results, areas, and issues were specified, Chair, all of which requires a direct response from the SAPS in collaboration with key JCPS cluster departments. The President also gave an indication of the manner in how these responses to the crime-related challenges should be addressed. In giving effect to the SONA priorities, departments need to ensure alignment to the APPs of their APPs to the SONA content. Where necessary, departments were required to include outputs and appropriate indicators in their APPs to ensure that the SONA commitments are addressed. The Presidency equally provided a matrix of SONA-related key results areas and key activities. SAPS was then required to demonstrate that this 2026-27 APP addresses all aspects relating to the President's 2026 SONA commitments, the key results areas relating to specifically crime-related issues. Chair, just as a reminder, as I indicated, we do have 8 of these priorities. At the top of this list is the fight against crime, corruption, including the Madlanga Commission recommendations, fight against organized crime and criminal syndicates. Number 3, we have to ensure that we deal with gang violence and illegal mining. Number 4, we have to ensure that there is a multi-sectoral approach to tackling crime, including violent crime, particularly against women and children. At number 5, these priorities, we have to ensure that we tackle gun crime. We have to ensure that we capacitate the SAPS, and we must address illicit economy. And at number 8, the priorities to ensure that we enforce immigration, labor, as well as other laws. Chair will note that the SAPS contributions to the SONA are highlighted in the section of the APP that will come at a later stage. In terms of the Minister's priority, Chair, and the Honorable Committee, we have 9 of those priorities that have been identified, and they are summarized in this page. At number 1, we have to ensure that organized crime and corruption is reduced nationally. Number 2, we have to ensure that we improve crime levels with a focus on gender-based violence. Priority 3, we will be focusing on firearm-related crime, and we must ensure that this shows a decline. We must ensure border security is enhanced, localized gang and organized crime violence is reduced in all affected policing precincts. At number 6, police departments must and entities must ensure that we have a strong strategic as well as management capability. There are objectives, Chair. I am not reading the objectives for purposes of time. At priority number 7, we must ensure that public trust in the SAPS is improved. The SAPS has to ensure that we have a highly effective intelligence and a detective capacity at priority number 8. And the last priority of the minister, the SAPS has to ensure that we have adequate technological capability to measurably improve community services and its impact on crime and public safety. Chair must note that the implementation requirements that I spoke about are on Annexure A that we have provided to the committee, and we will not be reading them. In terms of the SAPS corporate plans, and these are the SAPS strategic plan for the 2030, and the strategic plan allows for the measurement of the performance of the organization in terms of the outcomes over a 5-year period. This includes medium-term and end-term assessment of outcome indicators. The second corporate plan, Chair, is the SAPS annual performance plan for 26-27. This plan allows for the measurement of performance of the organization in terms of the outputs over a 1-year period. There are links to areas of performance to allocated budget. Performance is also reflected in the annual report as well as quarterly performance report. The last SAPS corporate plan is the SAPS annual operational plan. Here we provide for the implementation requirements that are linked to the outputs in the APP. Chair, I will then take the committee and remind us in terms of our impact statement as well as outcome. Our impact statement, and Chair, is a safe and secure environment that is conducive for social stability and economic growth, supporting a better life for all. This is a serious impact statement, and we have to ensure, Chair, that we do our work and realize this impact statement. In terms of the outcomes, outcome number 1, we have to ensure an increased safety in communities, particularly women and children. And this outcome is linked to the JCPS outcome 2 and 4, as well as external environmental analysis 1 and 2 and 4. Chair, the government gave the JCPS cluster focus areas in terms of the MTDP. And they specified to say, as you go and do your work, you must make sure that you move towards evidence-based policing and increase the use of proven technology, including the modernization of 10.111, implement a data-driven approach to target violent crimes, hotspots, and direct police resources and personnel to the police stations where crime is mostly prevalent. We must also, as the SAPS, work with communities to end crime by working closely with community policing forums and provide safe channels to citizens to report criminal activity. We must implement the NSP on GBVNF, expand victim support services such as Tutizela centers and GBV desks at police stations. We must equally ensure that effective border management to limit transnational crime and promote regional trade and the legal movement of people. These are the focus areas as outlined or specifics of the TDP, as well as the focus areas that has been instructed by the government for the JCPS cluster to focus on. In terms of outcome number 2, we must ensure that we combat priority offenses, including economic crimes, organized crime, and corruption. And this is linked to the JCPS outcome 3 and 4. In terms of the focus areas, we must tackle priority crimes such as gang violence, cash in transit heists, and the construction mafia through specialized police units. We must also ensure that we combat infrastructure crime by adopting a multidisciplinary collaborative approach to secure electricity, logistics, water, and other critical infrastructure. We must strengthen South Africa's anti-money laundering efforts to mitigate the pervasive threats posed by illicit financial flows and to also disrupt the financial networks of organized crime and protect the integrity and stability of our financial system. We must ensure within the cluster, all of us working together, that we strengthen whistleblower protections through stronger legislation and implement the national anti-corruption strategy. When it comes to outcome number 3, we must ensure that there is a strengthened and modernized ability of the SAPS to address crime. And this is linked to the JCPS outcome 1 as well as internal environment analysis. In doing so, we must provide additional capacity and resources to law enforcement agencies and the hawks to tackle crime, including organized crime, strengthen accountability and consequence management in the public service, including the police, and conduct lifestyle audits for elected officials, senior public servants, etc. So this is in relation to the summary on the 2025 to 2030 strategic plan, Chair. We move on to the APP. Chair, I will hand over to Brigadier Mitchell to take the committee through in terms of the APP, just to indicate that our APP for last year, the 25-26 financial year, we had 93 indicators. For this year, we have 113 indicators. This is an increase of 20 indicators, and this is mainly as a result that we had to include everything that is required from SONA, the issues of lifestyle reviews, investigative unit processes, as well as every that was in the previous CS APP. If the chairperson allows, Brigadier Mitchell will then take the committee through in terms of the APP. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, NatCom. We've deviated slightly from our traditional approach to presenting the annual performance plan to the committee. As required by the revised framework for strategic plans and annual performance plans, our annual performance plan must be linked to our strategic plan and to the outcomes, but which are also aligned to the direction which has been provided to the department by SONA, as well as by our minister. We have 13 focus areas that we've identified, and each one of these focus areas we are able to link to a financial program in the annual performance plan, and of course to the indicators that are relevant to that particular focus area. So we have reduced organized crime, which was raised by the SONA, prioritized by the minister as well. And there we have 3 programs, 2, 3, and 4, which linked to the focus area reduced organized crime. A holistic approach to addressing violent crime, particularly violent crime against women and children, also prioritized in the SONA and by the minister. And there again, programs 2, 3, and 4, our key programs, are contributing towards this focus area. Firearm regulation and firearm-related crime, the SONA and the minister prioritized this. Programs 1, 2, and 4 contribute. Border security, program 2, corruption, including within SAPS, as well as economic crime, we have programs 1, 3, and 4. Partnerships, community engagement, and mobilization, which is linked, of course, to the holistic approach to addressing violent crime. There we have programs 1 and 2 contributing. Internal stability, which remains a priority for the SAPS, program 2. Identify dignitaries and government interests protected and secured, program 5. Support to the investigation of crime, highlighted by the minister, program 3. The capacitation of the SAPS, including human resources, training, as well as our operational effectiveness, highlighted in both the SONA and by our minister. Program 1 will address that. Corporate governance, including oversight, regulatory requirements, supervision, and compliance, prioritized by both the SONA and by the minister. Programs 1, 3, and 4 contributing. Infrastructure development, program 1, and the modernization of policing, program 1. We have a specific budget allocation which is made in terms of each program. In the program 1, administration, we have 3 sub-programs: the ministry, management and corporate services, The total allocated in 26-27 is 24 billion, slightly above the 23 billion allocated in 25-26. Each program has a purpose. In terms of Program 1, the purpose is to develop departmental policy and manage the department including providing administrative support. Corporate services within 3 billion, financial services 1.5 billion, and corporate support 1.3 billion. Capital works will need to be managed within a constrained framework, even though prioritization of the environment was affected over the medium term to the extent that the total allocation of the department allowed. Apologies. Capital works, the ministry sub-program was increased with additional funding received for the increased portfolio, and the overall increase in the program is driven by inflationary increases on compensation, investment in technology, etc. Chairperson, when we look at the performance indicators in Program 1, on the left you will see the focus areas that I introduced earlier. Next to them, you have the performance indicators, the output indicators that have been linked to each one of these focus areas. And as the National Commissioner indicated, the performance indicators within each one of the programs that contribute directly towards the SONA are highlighted. In terms of the capacitation of the SAPs, looking at human resources and training, the number of new entry-level police trainees enlisted annually, where we will target 5,500 during 26-27. Our frontline capability is important to us, as indicated by NATCOM. The staff establishment of members appointed in terms of the SAPS Act at the top 30 plus 5 high contact crime stations, we intend increasing by 2% on the baseline. The number of DPCI SAPS Act members appointed annually, we will again target 150. We targeted 150 last year as well, but as indicated, the performance for 25-26 was 250. This is an indicator that we initially contemplated withdrawing from the annual performance plan. However, due to the prioritization by SONA, it was reintroduced. The percentage of functionaries in designated key posts, our two most important posts at an operational level, our station commanders and detective commanders who have completed the specified training, they're targeting 80%. Human resource development will identify the programs that these two key functionaries, the learning programs that they need to complete, and will actually indicate which of the station commanders and detective commanders need to attend this training. We have a couple of indicators that we had to defer from 25-26. The first basket of indicators linked to the capacitation of the SAPs, looking at operational effectiveness. The police station functionality assessment model still needs to be completed, as well as the SAPs Business Against Crime South Africa project. And finally, the one project that links to partnerships, community engagement, and mobilization, the impact study on the cooperation agreements with provincial and local government. And the reason why these were deferred from the 25-26 annual performance plan, I think we were a bit premature, including them in the 25-26 APP. They were priorities which were given to us by the ministry, and implementation needed to take place in terms of each one of these areas prior to the impact study being done by our research capability. SAP's infrastructure development, the number of new police stations established, we will target 12, 6 brick and mortar and 6 park homes, new mobile contact points procured, an additional 15 above what we procured last year. The number of police stations at which physical security measures are implemented, we are targeting 5. And then we have 2 indicators that talk to the devolved police stations, which are under our direct control as a department. These are planned maintenance projects for 26-27. In terms of repairs and renovations, the execution of such, we are targeting 4. And then repairs to cells, we are targeting 34 of our devolved police stations. The modernization of policing, looking at new mobile technologies provided for operational deployment. There we will focus on body-worn cameras, dashboard cameras, as well as drones. The number of police business units at which the integrity persons management system is implemented, we will target an additional 150 police stations. The number of identified national network communication infrastructure sites modernized, 130 will be targeted, and CCTV systems implemented at identified sites, we are targeting 80. Corporate governance, including oversight, regulatory requirements, supervision, and compliance. There are quite a number of indicators within Program 1 that contribute towards this particular focus area. We have the percentage of annual SAPS procurement allocated to designated groups. Last year, we focused on women. This year, we have included youth and persons with disabilities. And the percentages that are being targeted there in terms of procurement via quotations is 15%, 10%, and 2%. We've also introduced a new indicator into the annual performance plan, the number of civil claims registered for arrest and detention. There are additional categories of police activities which result in civil claims. However, arrest and detention constitutes approximately 80% of the total bulk of civil claims that we are required to deal with as a department. So the prioritization of this issue within the APP is just to focus our efforts in terms of implementation. We then have an additional two new indicators, the percentage of lifestyle reviews conducted on identified SAPS members, which will be done by our risk and integrity management capability, the percentage of lifestyle investigations conducted on members referred from the lifestyle reviews, and then percentage of lifestyle audits conducted on members referred from lifestyle investigations. Just noting that the State Security Agency will be responsible for the lifestyle reviews and vetting of senior management service members in the SAPS. We have two indicators that talk to the activities of the Auditor General of South Africa, the audit on our financial statements, where we seek to maintain the unqualified audit that we've achieved over the last few years, and then the percentage change in material findings on predetermined objectives. There we are targeting a 10% decrease in the overall number of material findings. We also have a number of internal assurance providers, which are important for us in terms of their contribution towards corporate governance, the percentage of audits completed by the internal audit capability in terms of our internal audit plan, the planned forensic investigations. There we are targeting 100% in terms of both. And it's difficult for us to include these numbers in the performance indicator upfront because our internal audit capability works through the audit committee of the SAPS to finalize these numbers, which usually happens after the tabling of the annual performance plan. The percentage of inspections executed in terms of our approved inspection plans, which will be dealt with by the DNCs and the provincial commissioners. There we are targeting 255. In terms of the Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee, we've got three indicators that we've included in our annual performance plan, two of which fall within Program 1. So we have the percentage of Madlanga Commission recommendations addressed and similarly ad hoc commission recommendations addressed. So this will talk to the total number of recommendations that are reflected in both of these reports. We have no idea how many recommendations we will be required to deal with as a department, but the commitment that we are making is 100% in terms of both. Emanating from these reports, there will invariably be the need for action to be taken against SAPS members. We have two indicators that talk to this action. The first is criminal action that will be required against SAPS members, which falls within Program 3. But any criminal action against SAPS members requires an immediate departmental response, which is why we have two indicators that talk to the departmental investigations that may be required against SAPS members emanating from both Madlanga and the Ad hoc Commission. To wrap up Program 1, we have the number of SAPS-owned firearms confirmed as lost, where we are targeting 419, a reduction. The corruption within SAPS, percentage of corruption-related disciplinary cases finalized within 60 calendar days. And then just to give you a summary in terms of the performance indicators in Program 1, 37, we had 28 in 25-26, And the 9 new performance indicators relate primarily to our corporate governance initiatives, our need to address Madlanga as well as ad hoc, the extending of the activities of risk and integrity management in terms of lifestyle reviews, investigations, civil claims, which has been added, and additional designated groups were added to our procurement indicator. The program-specific budget allocation for Program 2, we have a total allocation of 67 billion, which is up from the 63 billion allocated in 25-26. And the purpose of this program is to enable police stations to institute and preserve safety and security, provide for specialized interventions, and the policing of South Africa's borders. As the National Commissioner indicated, this program carries the highest weight, 53.2%, and we received additional funding in order to secure the local government elections. The program includes crime prevention, which has been allocated 43 billion, our railway police 1.4 billion, K9 units just over a billion, the mounted police 187 million, the youth, children and vulnerable people outreach programs that we have 47 million, our flying squads 1.6 billion, and detained persons managing them 385 million allocated. Border security, including ports of entry, 2.7 billion allocated. Our specialized capabilities within the visible policing environment, Special Task Force, 81 million. The National Intervention Unit, 669 million. The TRT, 653 million. And Public Order Policing, 4.7 billion. Just to note that facilities to provide for municipal services are allocated 1.7 billion, leases 1.8 billion, and accommodation charges for state-owned facilities 1.9 billion. General overall increases to this program are driven by inflationary increases on compensation, the securing of events of national importance, such as the upcoming local government elections. In terms of Program 1, the most important focus area, Program 2, the most important focus area for us within Program 2 is the holistic approach to addressing violent crime, particularly against women and children. And this is where the integrated crime and violence prevention strategy must play a leading role countrywide. The murder rate has been prioritized for the department, which we will decrease to 22.2 per 100,000 of the population. We also have indicators that talk to contact crime, where we are targeting a reduction in contact crime of 25%. Our contribution to the ICVPS, each government department is required in terms of the ICVPS to implement specific initiatives. We have a plan which we monitor within the context of our annual performance plan. The hotspot policing approach, which you will recall is one of the directives that was given to us by the GNU to implement. Our evidence-based policing approach we will be rolling out to Gauteng and the Free State Province. The percentage reported change in the decrease in the reported incidence of contact crimes against women and children are both reflected in Program 2, where we are targeting a 25% reduction. And then the percentage maintenance of our 10111 command center handle ratio of calls, we have lifted that from 80% in 25-26 to 82% in 26-27. This is also an output which is linked to the direction that was provided by the Government of National Unity in terms of the medium-term development plan. Partnerships, community engagement and mobilization. We have involved the CPFs in our annual performance plan, where we have a CPF self-assessment rating, which is conducted by 200 community police forums during the course of the year, 50 per quarter. We are continuing to target our national and provincial Izimbizos, 20 national and 180 provincial. Number of schools, including special needs schools at which the school safety program is implemented, there we are targeting 300. Firearm-related crime and firearm regulation. The number of illegal firearms recovered, we are targeting 6,427, which is a 5% increase Identifiable SAPS-owned firearms recovered, 226, a 10% increase. And the applications for new firearm licenses, which is linked to our processes in terms of firearm regulation, 90% finalized within 120 working days. We also have an indicator that talks to the number of reported cases of extortion. And this is unusual for us in that we are targeting an increase due to the general tendency towards underreporting of extortion within the country. We are targeting a 10% increase on the baseline in terms of the number of reported cases of extortion. We have two additional programs within Program 2, Specialized Interventions in Border Security, which are linked to internal stability. There we will continue to address peaceful crime, responding to high-risk incidents. Within the border environment, we have a set of indicators, the first of which talks to crime-related hits, where we do screening on our enhanced movement control system, focusing on wanted persons and circulated stolen or robbed vehicles. We have three indicators which talk to activities that are conducted by border policing at our ports of entry, the profiling of vehicles at land ports, containers at seaports, and cargo consignment at airports, which are searched for the illegal facilitation of persons, contraband, illicit goods, and/or stolen properties. Program 2 remained consistent during 26-27, comparing it to 25-26, 24 indicators included in Program 2. Program 3, the program-specific budget allocation, it's increased to just over 25 billion from the 24 billion in 25-26. 4 sub-programs, crime investigations, which is our general detective capability, the Criminal Record Center, the Forensic Science Laboratory, and Specialized Investigations, which is the DPCI. The purpose of this program: enable the investigative work of the SAPs, including providing support to investigators in terms of forensic evidence and the Criminal Record Center. Crime investigations allocated 13.3 billion, vehicle theft units 605 million, the stock theft units 727 million, and our family violence and child protection units 1.6 billion. There will be a continued focus on forensic services, also taking into account the reprioritization in the previous financial years towards this environment. Specialized investigations, the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation remains a priority. Effective from 26-27, National Treasury earmarked the budget allocation for this particular sub-program specifically and exclusively, and general overall increases are also driven by inflationary increases on compensation. In terms of the performance indicators that we have included linked to the focus areas, the holistic approach to addressing violent crime features in Program 3 as well. And we have the detective response to the reported incidents of crime, which we are measuring in Program 2. So we have the detection rate for contact crime as well as murder, and the detection rates for contact crimes against women as well as contact crimes against children. The taking of buccal samples, there we have a regulated target of 100%. That is from Schedule 8 arrested offenders. We have a set of leads that we monitor on within the context of our APP, 4 particular forensic leads: person to crime, crime to crime, fingerprint leads, and our integrated ballistics identification or IBIS leads, and the targets for each reflected. Just to point out that there is a difference between the targets in 26-27 and 25-26, because we went through a process of approximately 2 years where we were down managing the investigative leads that were outstanding. We've reached a point where we have largely been able to down manage these leads. And so you will see quite a significant difference in terms of what is being targeted for the leads within virtually each category. Reduced organized crime, there we will look at the percentage of identified organized criminal groups that are related to prioritized crime threats neutralized with arrests, where we are targeting 75% of the total number of identified organized criminal groups that have been identified by the SAPS. Detection rate for essential infrastructure-related crimes remains in the annual performance plan, as well as the detection rate for extortion. Corporate governance, including oversight and our regulatory requirements, these are the two indicators which I referred to earlier, the Madlanga Commission and the Ad hoc Commission, recommendations that require criminal action against SAPS members. Support to the investigation of crime is carried by two entities within SAPS, the Criminal Record Center and our forensic services. We will continue to look at the results of trial that are updated in terms of guilty verdicts and original previous conviction reports. The Forensic Science Laboratory will focus on the finalization rate in terms of the overall volume of forensic exhibits that it is required to process, 77% being the target there. The percentage of case exhibits or entries exceeding the stipulated time frame of 90 calendar days, which is essentially the backlog that the laboratory is sitting with, 20%. The number of forensic reports or 212 statements that are generated, this is the key tool that is provided to our investigating officers by the FSL, and that has been increased to 110,000 during 26-27. Specialized investigations, the Directorate for Priority Crime, they have a very specific mandate in terms of the priority offenses. Organized crime, serious organized crime, there the percentage of registered serious organized crime project investigations successfully closed, supported by the percentage of identified clandestine laboratories dismantled with arrests, and those two indicators both featuring in the SONA. Corruption and economic crime, serious, we have the percentage of trial-ready case dockets for serious corruption, where we are targeting 72%, serious commercial crime, 65%, and then the percentage of serious cyber-related crime support case files successfully investigated within 90 calendar days, we are targeting 70%. There was an increase of 2 performance indicators in Program 3 compared to 25-26, and both of those are linked to our obligation in terms of Madlanga and the Ad hoc Committee. The program allocation in terms of Program 4, where we have 2 sub-programs, Crime Intelligence Operations and Intelligence and Information Management, a slight increase to 5.2 billion in 26-27. The purpose of this program is to manage crime intelligence and analyze crime information, provide technical support for investigations and crime prevention operations. In this regard, compensation payouts are usually the largest portion. Therefore, increases on the program can be directly linked to increased cost of living benefits concluded for government employees. Operational costs are primarily fuel, fleet maintenance, travel and subsistence as generated by personnel, noting that the Secret Service account is not part of Vote 28. The focus areas, we start with reduced organized crime, where we have a set of indicators that are linked to this focus area. What crime intelligence has done is they have opted to indicate upfront how many of the network operations linked to the various key focus areas that they address they will be focusing on during a particular financial year. So in terms of all of the network operations, you have crime intelligence indicating that they, for example, in terms of prioritized organized crime threats, they are targeting the registration of 310, and then the percentage of network operations relating to prioritized organized crime threats that they successfully terminate, 70%. Just also to indicate that these network operations often extend from one financial year into the next, which is why we are targeting 70%. The date of submission of the finalized SAPS intelligence estimate That is an indicator that we had to introduce based on the SONA requirement. And then the number of arrests for prioritized organized crime as a result of the provisioning of intelligence reports. There, the target is 300. The number of network operations related to contact crime threats registered, 160, and contact crime threats successfully terminated, 70% of that 160. The number of arrests for contact crimes as a result of the provisioning of intelligence reports, there we are targeting 13,200. We also have an indicator that talks to arrests for contact crimes against women and children as a result of the provisioning of intelligence reports, where we are targeting 500. And then crime intelligence also contributes in terms of the number of firearms recovered as a result of the provisioning of intelligence reports. In terms of corruption, the number of network operations relating to corruption threats registered as well as successfully terminated will be measured. The proactive intelligence reports confirmed as operationalized for corruption as well as reactive intelligence reports. For corporate governance, the contribution from Program 4, the percentage of security clearances finalized, 100%, the numbers there, 1,500. ICT security assessments finalized and overt mandatory physical security assessments finalized in the SAPs. Just to summarize Program 4, we have 16 indicators, 4 new indicators introduced within Program 4, relating primarily to the commitment that crime intelligence has made in terms of the registration of network operations. Program 5, we have an allocation of 4.5 billion in 26-27, slightly more than the 4.3 billion in 25-26. There we look at VIP protection services, static protection, government security regulator, and operational support. The purpose of this program is to provide a protection and security service to all identified dignitaries and government interests. VIP protection services provides for the protection of the president, deputy president, former presidents, their spouses, and other identified dignitaries while in transit. Static protection provides for the protection of local and foreign dignitaries and the places in which all dignitaries, including persons related to the president and deputy president, are present. Compensation is a prominent element for all protection security functions with significant overtime costs, and the increased allocation to the program is driven by inflationary increases. We have a total of 12 indicators in Program 5 linked to the focus area identified dignitaries and government interests protected and secured. The 2 capabilities that are reflected here, our Division Protection and Security Services and our component Presidential Protection Services. The PPS will focus on the number of security breaches during in-transit protection as well as at identified government installations and VIP residences. They have an obligation in terms of strategic installations, which they audit on an annual basis, as well as national key points evaluated. And the targets there, 128 and 219 respectively. The indicators that have been identified for presidential protection services have been increased in order to reflect the critical mandate that they have. They will also look at security breaches during physical protection, as well as security breaches at identified government installations and identified state protected persons' residences. They also evaluate national key points. And then we have indicators that talk to the percentage of operations provided with information security, including the executive services, the provisioning of sterile environments, the high-risk deployments that are provided in relation to requests received, global security plannings and standards conducted by the PPS, and the percentage of required coordinations conducted in support of the PPS mandate. The summary for Program 5, an increase of 5 indicators within the PPS capability, and that increased from 7 to 12 indicators. As the National Commissioner indicated, we've attached the Minister's policing requirements, priorities for policing, where we've detailed the implementation requirements, which I won't address at this point. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair. This concludes our presentation. The implementation requirements for us are key. They will be monitored at the level of the National Commission as well as at Ministry to ensure that we account. Everyone must account. Every quarter, there must be progress in terms of how far we are. So we just wanted to demonstrate that we are ready. It's all hands on deck. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Brigadier. Colleagues, the refreshments were slightly delayed this morning, so I'd just like to grant 10 minutes, if it suits the committee, for everyone just to grab some water, tea, coffee, and a refreshment outside. So can we be back here at 10:30 sharp, where we then can start with deliberations? Thank you. did receive an apology from Honorable Matthys yesterday, and it is noted. I would like to open the floor for a discussion and for questions. I would like to try and keep any comment or questions to a maximum of 5 minutes per member. But I see what the Honorable Schikkeling does. I say 5 minutes, but then she just speaks faster. So she just fits more into the 5 minutes. So you can speak normally and then stick to 5 minutes, please. So may I see a show of hands from where then Minister Kachalia will hand over to you and the Acting National Commissioner to assist us in that. If I may note the Honorable Ghana, Honorable Schikkeling. I'm just going to note the whole row and then go to everyone. Yes. Honorable Ghana, can we start with you?
Thank you very much. And we did the informal congratulations and welcome to General Jimpane, and wish her well in a role as the head of the men and women in blue, and also those ones that don't wear uniform, that work for the South African Police Service.
how can the SAPS claim to prioritize GBV and conviction-led policing when the very backbone of this evidence, the DNA ballistics toxicology, is effectively being defunded in real terms, and that is according to the APP. Then, Chair, the APP itself aligns with the SONA commitments to strengthen the response to GBV and femicide, including faster investigations and improved case management. Yet the performance framework, there is no clear disaggregated indicator tracking GBV. And I've asked this question before about the disaggregated indicators. There's no specific conviction rates. There's no turnaround times for forensic evidence in GBV cases. There's case attrition. Cases take 3, 4, 5 years. I've been in a forensic science lab recently, and there was DNA sample lying there from January 2025. We are halfway through 2026, and the DNA still hasn't been tested. That can never happen. I mean, that's completely wrong. So how does the SAPS continue to speak about GBV as a priority, but fail to include measurable outcome-based indicators that track whether victims are actually receiving justice? Chair, we know that detective services receive only a modest growth while carrying the burden of cases. The detectives are the ones that carry the burden of the cases. They carry the burden of forensic delays. They carry the burden of complex investigations. What is the SAPS doing to ensure that detectives can produce quality dockets, reduce case backloads, and improve conviction rates, particularly in complex crimes like GBV, organized crime, and repeat offenders? Operation Chanela and the sustainability thereof. I mean, we obviously welcome high visibility operations, but they're dominating the policing model at this stage. What is the SAPS's long-term strategy to transition from repeat high visibility operations to actual sustained intelligence-led prevention-focused policing? Because we just keep going back to the same thing, and there's no real follow-up. And then when I speak about intelligence-led policing, the policy framework requires intelligence policing, yet measurable indicators still remain limited. What proportion of operations are intelligence-led driven? How many target organized crime networks or repeat offenders? And how many result in successful prosecutions rather than arrests alone? Because there doesn't seem to be any cooperation between the Department of Justice and police. And if there's not a good working relationship, then we're actually not going anywhere. Chair, my last question is the APP appears aligned to the NDP, the MTDP, the NPP, and the ICVPS. But the paper says the real question is whether this alignment translates into coherent, properly resourced and measurable system or implementation. What concrete evidence can the SAPS provide that this is more than just paper alignment and this is actually going to translate to arrests on the ground and a safer South Africa for all our communities? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Schikkerling. Then I would like to hand over to the Honourable Mako.
Yes, no, thank you, Chair, and greetings to the Minister and the Deputy Ministers. And let me as well join the chorus by congratulating the Acting Commissioner. We hope that Acting Commissioner, you will form part of the happy family that we see here, and obviously deliver as per the mandate the President has given to you of fighting crime in South Africa and ensuring that there is justice for all. Chair, we also welcome the presentation of the annual performance plan that was presented here. And my question will be based on the staff capacity in as far as the recruitment of 5.5 thousand members annually. And the presentation merely covers that you are setting it as a target that you will be recruiting 5,500 members annually. And my question will be, how does the department plan to achieve a 25% reduction in contact crimes while you are having a stagnant workforce that is sitting at 126,934 members below the ideal requirement? That's the first question. The second question will be, the FSL has achieved 0% of its targets for 3 consecutive years. What specific structural changes have been made to ensure the new 77% finalization target is met? And Chair, this go again beyond setting a 10% reduction target in civil claims, which specific disciplinary measures are being enforced against officers whose negligence leads to 813.4 million annual payout for unlawful arrest. Now, your APP targets the rollout of body-worn cameras and drones. Yet the internal analysis states this remain unfunded. The question will be, how will this be procured in the 2026-2027 cycle? And I think, Chair, I will come back if time permits. These were the 4 questions that I wanted to register in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mokoena.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me take this opportunity and greet our acting minister, both DMs and the newly appointed acting commissioner. I wish you well in your new responsibility. Just want to check, why does the Crime Intelligence Division continue to report 100% target achievement while internal reports cite hollowed out capacity and significant security breaches? How will you comment on the effectiveness and reliability of that performance indicator? There is an 11 billion shortfall in the infrastructure budget. Which police station project in the 2026 and 2027 list will be delayed or cancelled as a result? Following the AGSA's findings that 30% of results from your previous performance indicators were unreliable, what new pre-vetting mechanism has internal audit implemented for this financial year? I think this one, Mr. Ghana has touched on lifestyle audit. I just want to check with you that how will you ensure independence of the lifestyle audit execution? Has the formal service level agreement with the special investigating unit been concluded to conduct the targeted lifestyle audit of the SMS members? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mokoena. Then the Honorable Dereko.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to the acting minister, the deputy ministers, and our acting national commissioner and the team and the members. Chair, my question is on the declaration of gender-based violence. Following the declaration of gender-based violence and femicide as a national disaster, what is the budget that has been reinforced to address matters related to gender-based violence and intervention? Furthermore, how is this allocation going to be monitored to ensure that it has a measurable impact in terms of its implementation? And secondly, Chair, is on financial controls. In the last financial year, the department had an irregular expenditure. can they please take us along as to, out of that irregular expenditure that they have accumulated, how much have they recovered from that? And is there any consequence management measures in place on funds that seems to have element of illegality? And Chair, the third one is on extortion. We have witnessed for many years now that, especially in provinces like Eastern Cape, extortion is very high. And the department, APP, seeks to increase the reporting of extortion cases to 10%, by 10%. Given the fact that the department's its own risk analysis highlighted the threat of violent retaliations, what concrete measures has the department have in place in order to protect the victims and the small business owners who come forward to report these cases? Does the department currently have enough capacity to protect the victims and the people who come forward with regard to this? And lastly, Chair, we'll also speak about the Operation Chanela. Will the department shift from reporting solemnly on the volume of arrests to also reporting to the convictions rate, so that at least we can strike balance in terms of the arrests and the end product of those arrests? Because the narrative that is out there is that people will open a case and then after 2 months, 3 months, you see that person free. But if we can get statistics in terms of how many cases have been opened and out of those cases, how many have been convicted, it will also assist to see the work of the department and also to account to the community out there and move away from this negative narrative of people being arrested just for formality and thereafter you'll see them loitering on the street. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable James.
Thank you so much, Jay. Good morning to the Acting Minister, Acting National Commissioner, the Deputy Ministers and the SAPS management. Thank you so much for the presentation. I want to start off with something that's very topical and nothing was mentioned about it, SANDF deployment. A complete failure, a big disappointment to us as South Africans. Why haven't we heard anything about that deployment? Minister's priorities as well as the SONA priority. And I'm really, really disappointed that nothing was said about it in your presentation. Nothing was said about the fact that we haven't had a single report since the deployment in terms of successes, in terms of informing South Africans where we are, what has happened, is it working, is it not working. If anything, since the deployment of the SANDF, there's been more deaths on the Cape Flats. If anything, it almost feels like a drive-by, like a wedding drive-by where a couple is driving through the community and everyone is waving and smiling. There's absolutely no operations taking place. And I speak from a point of being present at these operations, Minister. I was driving behind 3 of these operations in different areas on the Western Cape for over an hour. And guess what? Not a single time did SAPS or SANDF stop to actually go in anywhere. They drove through the community, they smiled and they waved and they went to park and that was the end. What is happening? We have allocated billions. We literally see only one SANDF, and sorry if I'm going to be stuck here for a while, one SANDF van with 8 members and 4 SAPS vehicles in hard-hit communities. And at this point, we're having more than 100. We speak about the vulnerable women and children. That is where your victims are coming from, the Western Cape. I want to ask, why don't we have, your presentation speaks to a whole of government approach. Why don't we have a whole of government approach when it comes to this intervention? What stops us? What are the challenges? Because it has clearly fallen flat on its back. Why haven't we included forensics in this operation? It's not there. There's no intelligence. We speak to the members that's part of these operations. There's absolutely no intelligence. They don't know where to go and where to start. And that's the reality. So please, can we have feedback on the SANDF deployment, why it's not working, and what next? I think that's the first thing. Also, the second thing, I'm not sure if we are creating duplicate roles or if this is a smoke screen or what, but can we please unpack the role of the newly appointed, I'm not even sure what role he's been appointed in, General Kwanazi? Can we first, before I ask questions on that, please unpack what that role entails? And then also, we speak to the vetting, obviously, what is unfolding in ad hoc and Madlanga Commission and our response. Counterintelligence. There's absolutely nothing in this report about counterintelligence that exists within SAPS. When it comes to detecting the risk, when it comes to lifestyle audits, what are we saying about counterintelligence? Are they there? Are they dead? And are they active? And what is the budget allocation for counterintelligence? Or is it no longer needed within SAPS? Because if we had an active counterintelligence in SAPS, we wouldn't be sitting here today with an acting minister and an acting commissioner. Then also, something the reservists. Here we have thousands of South Africans that has given their time and that has served this country for years, that has gone through all the training. And we are duplicating roles. We are employing new people in those roles when we do have our reservists. What are we saying about that? Where are we with the reservists who still have those Purcell numbers on the system, who cannot even get grants because of that? We speak about, I think on page 31, youth, children, and vulnerable people. 47 million for youth, children, and vulnerable, and we speak about, prioritizing GBV, another SONA priority, 47 million allocated. And we speak about crime prevention. When there are hundreds of children on street corners begging, and our policemen are driving right past them, as if that's not a crime. What are we saying about children that's been abandoned on every street corner on the Western Cape, throughout South Africa? But we speak about a budget of 47 million. We speak about border security, 2.7 billion rand. Does this include scanners? We heard in the ad hoc committee about one scanner. What are we saying about detecting illicit goods coming through our borders? Do we have the relevant equipment to address it and to tighten border security? SAP's infrastructure. A couple of weeks ago, Chair, I visited the Hawks in Bellville, their office. Lord knows I wouldn't go to work. That building has been declared unfit many years ago. The morale of the members in that building is at an all-time low. Is that building part and parcel of the infrastructure upgrade? It cannot even be upgraded, must just be scrapped. These are the real issues on the ground. I'm going to leave it at that for now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable James. Minister Kachalia.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to all the members who've asked very helpful and interesting questions. And they certainly, as I've keep emphasizing my engagements with the Chairperson, that they are extremely helpful also to the ministry in identifying the issues that need focused attention. I'll try and address some of the questions, and then I'll hand over to General Bimpane. Let me just start with some of the issues that Honorable James has raised, because I think that for this process to work, the oversight process, it's important that the agenda and the focus of this meeting is kept in view. So we were asked to prepare on the budget and the APP. And so we've had questions, for instance, about whether these targets are realistic or not. Those are helpful. I'll address all the questions that have been raised. We were not asked to report on the SANDF deployment. But the honorable member is entitled to raise that issue, and there are questions, legitimate questions about how that intervention is being monitored and whether it is successful or not. It is successful or not. I think that is a matter that the committee should be focusing on in its work ahead. The deployment has just started. We as the ministry also working on how to monitor the implementation of the deployment of the soldiers who are not directly under the command of General Timpane. But I see that the SANDF has quite a lot of assistance from the honorable member entering homes and so forth. Now, and it's certainly premature to make that kind of highly generalized observation about it not working. The deployment is for an annual period. And I would say, honorable members, that deployment of the SANDF is not a panacea. We've never presented it as such. The critical question for the police is going to be how we use this period to improve the level of policing in relation to organized crime. And certainly the deployment of the SNDF was necessitated by the fact, by the recognition that we were not succeeding in dealing with the gangs, with illegal mining at the level that we need. And therefore, we should be having a conversation about what the government is doing to address this evolving challenge of organized crime. That is the critical question. The deployment of the SNDF is intended to create the space for us to develop and implement such an organized crime strategy. Now, as regards General Kwanazi, we have elevated him to a very senior role at a national level to deal with organized crime. So he will head up the Priorities Committee on Organized Crime in the Net Joints. The Net Joints is chaired by General Musikeli. That is the main operational structure through which operations are implemented. The politicians don't sit there. So the decision that has been made with respect to the appointment of General Timpane should be seen as part of an effort incrementally to strengthen police leadership at the top. So the way we are seeing it is that she will be leading a team. General Kwanazi is part of that team. General Musikeli is part of that team, and they have distinct roles, and their responsibility is going to have to work together as a team. This idea that you have a one national commissioner that does everything is wrong. What we need at the top at SAPS is a collective leadership that combines the skills and attributes of a number of key office bearers, if you like any large organization. And may I say, there's no need to be angry about this. If you ask the question, General Kwanazi's appointment has been in the media. It's not hidden, it's been publicized. And I hope that his appointment also at national level will be appreciated, because we're making decisions about how to implement an organized crime strategy. And a decision about leadership is critical. In the documents before you, there is also the focus on the DPCI, which you might want to think about as our FBI. General Nkosi is here. The DPCI, the commitment is to build out the capabilities of the DPCI also as one of the lead agencies fighting organized crime. Now, Honorable James raises the issue about children. This is a very important question. But the honorable members of this committee should know that this is why we need an all-government. You can't look at the SAPS budget and say, well, is enough money being allocated to support the development needs of children? The question should be, what is the role of SAPS in dealing with the enforcement issues impacting children, issues of criminality, and it's the same with GBV and H, on which I thought General Schnickeling, Member Schnickeling, yes, under my watch, it looks like there are going to be a few people who might get it. But you asked all the right questions about whether the targets and indicators reflect this commitment. It's the same with infrastructure, Honorable Jane. You know that actually the department is not an infrastructure department. We don't build police stations. We don't maintain them. So when you go around the country and you see places where there should be police stations and there aren't any, as I have, and you go to police stations that are not properly being maintained, the question is whether the current model of delivery of police stations and maintenance of those police stations is adequate. I don't think it is. And that's a challenge for the government. The stations are built by the Department of Infrastructure and Public Works. And we pay them to maintain those stations. Now, you must not misread me, members, to be thinking that I am now pointing fingers at another department. I won't do that. Because I know if I was the minister of that department, you would still have the same problem. It's a challenge that we haven't succeeded in dealing with over the last 30 years. So that is why we've started a conversation with the Treasury about our approach to infrastructure. And it arose out of a conversation I had with Deputy Minister Matale. Which is, if the current model is not working optimally, not like it's not working at all. I visited many stations, new stations. I was in the Western Cape over the long weekend and visited what do we call it? Not a pilot, the ones where it's a temporary satellite. It was a fantastic structure. I mean, for a satellite, really secure, because that's one of the problems we have with using the satellite option, that the police officers there may not be safe. But this is was a solid structure. So we have started a conversation with the Treasury around PPPs, whether we can use the PPP model. One of the priorities in my conversation with the new acting National Commissioner is to be the implementation of that model. And my understanding is that there already are 27 stations that have been identified by GTEC for the implementation of that model. But if that model can be implemented, which involves the private sector, it could possibly, I don't want to be making promises, it could possibly transform the infrastructure landscape of policing in this country. The current model is not working, and it's not working optimally. I think there's a planning problem. You go to many communities, you all know, colleagues, you go to a community, they've got a police station, but the community has doubled in size. The police station is no longer coping. There's a planning problem there. So let's not be also simplistic. Infrastructure is a huge and complicated challenge in this country around policing. But we are thinking about how to respond creatively and thoughtfully to that challenge. And that maybe the committee can invite us in a few months. I hope we'll be ready to report back on that initiative. Now, the members have all asked us the right questions about implementation. No one is just, I think we're all aligned here on the priorities, that these are the right priorities. And the priorities are embedded. I think that's what we should be looking for in the current budget. Are they reflected in the SOPs? Are they reflected in the target? I haven't heard one member of the committee say, we don't agree with your priorities. And how did we do that? We engaged with the presidency and just make announcements. Then we adopted priorities, and I really have to express appreciation to the leadership of the South African Police Service. For what they've in their internal budgeting and planning, those priorities are reflected. I believe those are the right priorities, and no one has contested that here. The question that I think Honorable Ghana particularly and Honorable Sheikh Snickling have raised the right ones, and I just want to spend some time on them because the conversation we should be having here is not just a bilateral conversation between the committee and SAPS. It's a conversation involving the committee, the SAPS leadership, and the ministry. That's why I said that your questions are of enormous assistance to us because they're the right ones. On the question of detective rates, Honorable Ghana is right that if we can start to see significant reduction in the murder rate, that is universally internationally accepted as a good indicator of police performance and of that you're succeeding in general with the fight against contact crime. The murder rate is an objective rate, as you indicated. Now, we know for a long time, and that's why your spirit also of the questions are so important. I think that it may well be the case that the great majority of cases are not properly investigated. We know that victims of crime don't receive regular reports in many cases from the police. We know that our forensic laboratories are not functioning at the level that they should be functioning. And I'm greatly worried about the backlog. My understanding is that those backlogs are increasing, not decreasing. So I would also hope that the committee can call the board soon. I'm going to be engaging the board and ask them those questions. Because you're quite right. If we don't improve the training of our detectives, and General Dimpane, General Zulu are here. They must hear the questions you're asking because they are the right questions. They're also my questions. I think we've got alignment in the budget and the APP. The question is how are we going to achieve these targets? And without rethinking, stepping up the training of detectives, without making sure that we improve the performance of the forensic laboratories, we're not going to achieve these targets. And when General Dimpane made her opening observation, she said the issue is going to be around efficiency and effectiveness of the functioning of SAP. She gave exactly the right answer because we have to work within the existing resource envelope. All of you know the country's economy is not growing at the level that it needs to. You know that tax revenues are therefore under pressure. And you're all committed, as far as I understand it, at least in the GNU, to the current approach to the management of the country's finances. So the question is, we have to work within the budget, the financial constraints that the country faces. Because within those resource envelopes, we have to meet all the country's needs for social development, for the protection of our children, etc., etc. The question is, how does this budget reflect the priorities that the committee thinks should be our priority? Now, the reason that we're now re-emphasizing the importance of civilian oversight, and they're here, is that I think we got into this position over the last 30 years because we de-emphasized the monitoring, evaluation, and oversight role of civilian oversight. It's not going to be possible to turn civilian oversight around over time. There are good people there. They have some good leadership, but they have resource constraints. The same with IPED. We're going to be discussing that later. IPED is certainly not at the level where IPED, in terms of the resources, where it can ensure there's accountability. The question is, are we are we pointing in the right direction? Are we asking the right questions at least? So we have to emphasize training, we emphasize oversight to address the issues that Honorable Ghana and Honorable Smith asked. So it's about HR. General Nkua is also here. I want them to hear the questions you're asking because I'm going to be asking them the same question. So what we have is a start. They are going to have to answer the question how we implement and achieve the results that we're trying to achieve. So yes, we have I've done, and I welcome the pressure, but I am saying we're at the beginning of this reset agenda. Reset. It's going to take years. I think we should start be thinking, not in a year, we should start thinking in the next 2 decades. Not like to postpone what we need to do, to take systematically, to take steps every year from now on to build the kind of police service that we're trying to build. And I agree very much with you. They all know it. I'm not thinking about the change in the policing model. I think visible policing has to be part of our ongoing strategy. I think our communities expect visibility, but you're quite right that visibility doesn't yield conviction. And we need an intelligence-driven approach. So we also need to manage a change in the policing model, which is what we're saying. And I think that that's exactly what we need to achieve. go in the next 5 to 10 years, that we have to change the model of policing, not by throwing the baby out of the bathwater, but by building upon what has been achieved, what is necessary. I mean, I think, for instance, we need street lighting. You know, the reason that I think we must strengthen community policing, patrollers and so forth, is that the visibility issue is important. The presence of law enforcement. I know you go to any big city and you see policemen on the street corners and so forth. It creates a sense of security, but it's definitely not enough. We need to implement a new policing model, not only to reduce the levels of organized crime, improve detection rates significantly. I don't think we've got 10 years to improve detection rates. That's what I'm saying. I think we have to show improvement year on year. If I don't address a question, it's because I'm not sure of the answer, and I'm sure that the team. But the issues, so GBVH, I just want to keep emphasizing. We are emphasizing the importance of this because we see the classification, the decision that's been made by the president as a call to action. Say what's happened in the last 30 years, what must now improve. And the law enforcement side, we are emphasizing. It's not a mistake that Deputy Minister Bushelu has been given this specific responsibility to ensure that the law enforcement picture changes. And I'm emphasizing that because to underscore the fact that this is a priority. And in the area of technology, another area that the committee is identifying, I think the department has to improve its ability to absorb new technology, to identify. We're now in the era of post-digitalization, away in the AI. I mean, I don't think we have the internal capabilities yet, because this is a new, in a way, it's an evolving capability to see what law enforcement capabilities there are, as well as risks that come from the AI revolution. But we don't have to go that complicated. Body cams, drones, they've done well in the Western Cape. So I think technology is an area. Again, the Deputy Minister has been to China, where they focus on this matter, whether there's a possible partnership with the Chinese. You all know that I think, you know, the Chinese have gone for surveillance. They have cameras everywhere. And before I got into this portfolio, I might have said from a human rights point of view, I'm uncomfortable. But our society, one, is prepared, I believe, for more surveillance. If it means less privacy and more surveillance, and therefore more safety, that's the model they go for. And I visited that operational center in the Eastern Cape, run by Agri South Africa. I know that there are different such initiatives in different parts of the country, also by SAPS. And I want to say to the National Commissioner, you know, I think we must tackle this thing once and for all. We need one big operational center which is properly equipped, you know, properly staffed, so that we have real-time data on where crime is happening and who's involved in this criminal activity. And it's an area we've been talking about for the last 30 years. There have been some initiatives, but it's time for some bold action. The lifestyle audit, the Minister of State Security announced after the SONA, or was it in the SONA that the President announced that the lifestyle audit will be carried out by the Department of State Security. We had already started my conversation with General Masemola, because he'd already started implementing many of the, he was working quite hard. And so all of this, I would say it it was not something that, yeah, I am concerned about his well-being, even as he faces because he was carrying out his responsibilities faithfully. But in any event, we had started with the SRU to do the lifestyle audits. Now the SAA is doing it, but we have to make sure, General, that, I mean, how is it going to work? Will they be reporting to us? How do we make sure that they are also doing their work? Because we have an interest in ensuring that the lifestyle audits are carried out, but it's not in our hands. We are not doing the lifestyle audit. It's being done by the SSA. Financial controls, I leave that to General Gimpane. One of the reasons why she's sitting where she is that she understands, and I believe that SAPS needs, we got into the situation because we messed up, and that has an impact on police performance. So those who say, no, you just need a cop's cop to run a big, complex organization like SAPS, really, with respect, don't understand what it takes to run an organization. And if it is, whether it's manufacturing products or it's doing safety, that organization has to be well run and well managed, and it has to manage its finances properly, so that resources are not wasted, resources are properly allocated, and so forth. The extortion question is an important one, Honorable Director. It's a growing problem. At least it's reflected now in where the focus must. Extortion is a very difficult crime to police, but I also think that your observations about the protection of victims, important one to hear. It's not just about arresting the extortionist and the contortionist, it's about protecting those businesses that need to establish themselves and to grow and to be able to do business without being intimidated and expected. So it is a focus. It will be a focus of General Panazi, extortion, but I think this idea of protecting victims is very important. Now, I am rounding up the person. The right questions have been asked about conviction rate. But is that the target that SAPS, you're saying SAPS must adopt? Or is that illustrates the question about the importance of a whole government integrated approach to the criminal justice cluster? And I can tell you that we are struggling in that area because departments do work in silence. And I can't instruct the Department of Justice, nor can I instruct the head of the NDPP, who is independent, constitutionally independent, what targets he must adopt, what his priority should be. But of course, if you've just got an arrest target for the police, then that is what they're going to do. They're just going to arrest. So I think that the one way in which maybe the committee can also assist, maybe the committees in this cluster should think about a cluster approach also to oversight, so that the targets that are set for across the cluster can be the ones that are emphasized in the oversight process. Yeah, so I would like General Gimpane to deal with the matters that I haven't dealt with, Chair, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Chair. I think why I emphasized the implementation requirements that we have attached is precisely for this. And I agree totally with the questions and concerns and the comments from the committee. What will be required from us, even for this year, we have put money aside for this. the operational efficiency, how we do things, the procurement and acquiring of these things. These are things that has been happening that has taken long. So funding is put aside, and we will ensure that we hold ourselves to account to ensure that those resources such as scanners that are required are procured at the right time, and to ensure that we allocate to provinces to do their work. So funding has been provided. As limited as it is, it then says we need to be efficient in how we do things. We need to collaborate more. We need to ensure that there is no wastage. The issue of civil claims was raised. This is an issue. That is why we said elevate it to the APP, because it can be an issue that we talk about and there is no accountability. So you will see, Honorable Ghana, that somewhere we have elevated this thing of the civil claims as a result of unlawful detention, precisely because we want to monitor, hold those that are responsible to account in this regard. It was never there. And there is an area where there are a bit of leakages, and we need to ensure that the relevant people are held to account. We also have a plan in place that is driven from legal services to also zoom into it. Is there a possibility of collaboration and corruption in this particular area of civil claims? So that is the main reason why we have elevated it, to put it before us, to ensure that we do not lose sight in terms of this. So operational efficiency, as well as accountability, and as well as understanding the goal that we have to achieve. All the things ourselves to account in this regard. The issues of GBV, we have 1.7 billion set aside to tackle all the activities that talks to GBV. The 47 million, honorable member, is for proactive initiative education on those crime prevention initiatives under visible policing. However, we do have a 1.7 billion set aside for issues that talks to GBVF. We have also topped up the provincial commissioners' allocations with an additional 50 million on their baselines to ensure that this is a focus area. So as limited as they are, the resources we have tried to spread. What we need is for us to be efficient, to be innovative in terms of how do we then achieve collaboration, as well as partnership. General Sintumule will touch on what we are busy working on in terms of our collaboration with Business Against Crime to improve the efficiency within the investigative space, as well as forensic investigation. There are targets that were not achieved within Program 3. We have increased targets. The question is it impossible to achieve those targets? Where we are sitting, it is not impossible. Yes, we do have limited constraints, but we need to ensure that we then put systems in place to capacitate ourselves within the detectives. This is a priority area. The HR plan is talking to that, as well as the steps as well, and plans that I have directed General Sintumule and the team to then focus on. So detective services, investigative environments are a priority, and we intend to ensure that we capacitate ourselves to achieve that we said we want to achieve. It is urgent. We need to ensure that the murder rate goes down. We need to unpack, working together within the justice cluster to ensure that those things are achieved in this particular regard. So there are funds that are put aside. We just need to improve efficiency. The issues of IT, there is a bit of funding, more funding that we have allocated, you will see, compared to last year. There's a bit of room to maneuver when it comes to issues of IT. Is it enough? No, it is not enough. That is why there is a need for us to collaborate. The minister has spoken about the agreements that have been signed. These are the issues that we are going to be zooming into to ensure that we completely overhaul and expedite the priorities within the technology management space. And yes, without taking away the challenges that we have in terms of our third-party arrangements, but these are the things that are doable, and we will be looking and monitoring those particular activities and holding the relevant managers to account in this regard. Issues of visibility, it is important. Yes, we have set money aside. We intend to recruit over 5,500, and I believe we will be doubling the number this year due to the backlog that we have in terms of recruiting these officials to join our ranks in this regard. We do have the capacity, we have set money aside in this particular regard. The issue of the SNDF deployment, as Minister had indicated, that we focused on, even as early as yesterday, we to say, after a month, after 2 months, we need to come back. I want an analysis, I want a report. So General Musikidi and the team are working on that to address precisely those concerns, Honorable Member. And I believe soon, we will be able to come back to the committee and report in this particular regard. So it's an area that I am putting focus on. Even yesterday in our